Alright then,
Okay.
are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Making sure I'm recording, and we're recording. And 3, 2, 1, let's blow. Oh no, I tried to think of something that went with air.
All right, Sean, you're doing me.
Wait, what?
What? Kier, get out! Get out of the call.
Boy, he said let's blow.
I expect you to say something like ill or something like that, not Jesus Christ, man. Like,
Can that just go at the end of the video?
um, I don't even know how. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Discuss Death Battle. Blowing is your only mate.
I don't belong here. Oh wait, that's for the next part.
And joining us as well is, I don't know, Shawnee. Like that just took me back. I don't know how to introduce you guys right now.
Well, let's sweep this intro under the rug, shall we?
Yes, welcome to Let's Discuss Death Battle. We're going to talk about the previous episode, the next time, and as well as our third topic. Both of the next sessions will have 2 guests on, one for the next time and one for the third topic. But of course, before we go ahead discussing the episode, let's give a shout out to some comments, as well as looking back on a poll we posted. From Yang the Insane, and this is our review of Sentry vs Superboy Prime. She says, Superboy Prime took a bit to get used to, but honestly grew to like him over time. Definitely worth reading his comics if you've not. I mean, I'm definitely planning on checking out some of his latest comic books, because given what they covered in Death Battle, it actually seemed like he went through pretty good character growth. So, and people are generally excited for his next story arc. So, yeah, do you want if DC comic books, like, regardless of what you think about their movies and some of their TV shows at the moment, their comic books have been cooking lately. So, some could say are absolutely good.
Oh, cut that out.
I ain't cutting.
What does that have to do with the Pokemon Absol?
But yeah, like, I generally feel as though, like, one, the Death Battle, and also from what people have told me, like, Superboy Prime actually seems like he actually went through a pretty good character growth. So, yeah, I'm actually willing to give his comic books a try. I'm always down to always look back on characters that I disliked, and then I'm like, oh, actually, no, they're actually kind of cool looking back on them. Now, I don't particularly have a comment for the prediction video, because some might not realize this if they've already watched the video. Our prediction actually did pretty well in terms of views. Admittedly, though, some of those views came from a lot of arguing. Now, we were warned, apparently, like, talking about Avatar and Genshin Impact, there's going to be a bit of toxicity, which, when you have a passionate fan base like Avatar and Genshin Impact, it makes sense we were going to get this heat. But some people in the comments, I will admit, like, here's the thing, we don't have issues with people getting into discussions and debates in our comments, as long as it's civilized. There was a lot of petty comments made to one another. There was people, like, someone said to me, like, oh, you should expect toxicity when talking about something like this and just accept it. And I'm like, no. That's like, oh, if there's a Karen in my shop who's messing up all my stuff, I should just accept it. It's like, no, I'm going to kick the Karen out of my shop. Like, we don't block comments unless there's something really outrageous, like someone's insulting us, death threats, that sort of thing. In fact, there was this one comment who, again, we had this one, I'm not going to name them because they even deleted their comment. They were talking about how we were focusing too much, or like how we went into too much detail when talking about, like, Genshin Impact, but then we apparently paid more for, like, Avatar. Like, in a way, they were kind of saying we're biased, which they deleted the comment when I went to respond to it. Which, again, I do not respect people who leave a comment and whether they get to. I mean, on one hand, I could kind of look at it as maybe he realized, okay, that was a bit of a crappy attitude to have. I should delete that. I don't know. I feel as though you sometimes got to own when you make a stupid comment. Like, we literally did a third topic, re-looking at some of our old comments, like, on a video. So it's like, So yeah, I wasn't really appreciative of the arguing going in the comments and in pettiness people. Like, I get it. It's verse debating. Verse debating can be a bit emotional at times, I guess we'll say. but keep it civil. Like, otherwise, if we see something like that again, I will just start muting some comments. Do you guys want to have any input about those?
I thought it would get a little toxic, but to not that degree, honestly, because we've talked about like controversial matchups before, but it never got that bad.
No, like I feel as though the comments in Goku vs Superman predicts were actually tamer than Genshin Impact and Avatar.
Wow, that says a lot.
I know, right? How have we gotten to that point? So yeah, so people like just remember to have fun, and if you do just argue, like if you want to debate and argue, that's fine as long as you keep it civil. If you start throwing out names and making fun of people's intelligence, that sort of thing, it's like no, our comment section, our Discord's not for that. We're just a bunch of guys that want to have fun and talk about a show we really enjoy. Like, just chill the f out. And the final comment we got, which we actually want to give some other shout outs with our third topic. This is regarding our ranking of season 1 devs from a bro co-host, Z-Dog. Not gonna lie, the best thing and only redeeming thing nowadays for me about Justin Bieber versus Rebecca Black's death is the way Sean faked us out in our first ever Death Battle Jeopardy. Overall fun ranking. I will have a soft spot for Mario's death for traumatizing me, make me never forget the show. Sean, I have to actually ask about that. Like, what is he talking about?
I think it was a question regarding death specifically. Like, I made a question and the answer was Miley Cyrus and nobody figured it out.
Okay, that's kind of funny. Like, I might have to ask you about that because that is pretty funny.
At least it wasn't someone guessing Gray twice.
That was twice as funny.
Okay, then that's
Was it Gray? No. Next. Was it Gray?
No.
Bloody hell, man. There was a lot of those. But some other special shout outs we'll give because people on our server actually did their own ranking of the deaths. From Yang the Insane again. I'm mostly going to focus on what they put on like their bottom tier stuff. So for Yang, she put Riptor, Wonder Woman, and Starscream's death at the bottom. And for Proboscis, he put Leonardo's death and Rebecca Black's death at the bottom, which is definitely quite surprising. I will say though, renaming our bottom one to trash, I think is a little harsh. Because I don't feel like any of the deaths in season 1 were trash. Yes, I did give a lot of them the That's It ranking, but I look at That's It as just like, oh, okay, that's how they're ending the episode. I didn't think there was any episode's death that was bad, quote unquote. Like, okay, maybe
it's kind of just how a lot of like tier lists go and how people just talk online sometimes.
Yeah, I just feel as though using trash, and this is just me, like, because obviously I don't spend like 90% of my life online. I like to touch grass sometimes. It's like calling something trash. Something has to be really bad. Like I had to look at something and almost want to vomit, which is very unfortunate because what I use for my cup holder these days is the Ruby Justice League crossover. So that's a bit of a poor choice on my part. But yeah, I just feel like using.
Maybe it's just an American thing.
Yeah, I just feel like calling something trash. Like I don't feel like those deaths are trash. Like if you think, oh, they weren't as impactful, fair enough. I just think the renaming's a bit, I don't know, harsh like for me. But from Squifflin, he put, he actually had I do like the fact he put Bieber versus Black as its own category, like very bottom. But in pretty bad, I was quite surprised. So both Donatello, Michelangelo, Wonder Woman, and Starscream. That's the common one I keep seeing. It's either the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles death, Wonder Woman, and Starscream. Those are the ones I always tend to notice are like bottom tier stuff. Like that's quite surprising.
I mean, you would agree with the Wonder Woman one at least.
Yeah, but I still feel as though like okay, it kind of fits for Rogue to like kill someone like that, the touch of death. Like, okay, yeah, I guess I would say that is the worst of season 1. Yeah. Like I can understand like, from all the deaths in comparison, it is objectively the worst one. It's so lackluster. But yeah, I don't know. I'm generally surprised that Donatello and Michelangelo got so. I thought their deaths were pretty savage and brutal, and I mean people still talk about Donatello's death. But yeah, those are our comments, and we thought we'd give a special shout out to the tier list that were made. And hey, people, if you want to make your own tier list, there's a link in the description down below of the third topic last time. And hey, let us know what you think of the deaths. And just before we move on to the next topic, we did bring back a lads poll. We haven't done those in a while. And we asked, if Death Battle did Shadow versus Vegeta today, do you reckon Shadow could win? Surprisingly, it is pretty split, but Shadow actually wins by 59%. So I'm like, okay, that's
given the scaling of like the super forms, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's actually kind of making me want to see a Vegeta versus Shadow rematch more than a Shadow versus Mewtwo. But I feel, because on one hand, I'm thinking, right, we know Shadow versus Mewtwo is a stomp. So I'm like, okay, but if this one's so debated, I'd rather the one that's more debated and talked about than the one that, like, let's be real, I think the community just won just so Shadow gets another dub.
I mean,
I
wouldn't call Shadow Mewtwo. Sorry.
Look, when it comes to like Vegeta Shadow or Mewtwo Shadow, say whatever you will about Vegeta Shadow, at least it's finished.
Well, that's a point I was going to bring up, because like I wouldn't consider it a rematch at this point, more like a complete entire remake of it.
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, we've discussed like doing rematches and stuff like that. It's like, if I just had to choose, though, given how split this poll is, it's like I'm kind of leaning to one of the more Vegeta versus Shadow episode, because it seems as though there's actually could be some debate amongst fans with this one. Whereas Mewtwo versus Shadow, I'm going into that like, yeah, Mewtwo's screwed. The only thing he really has is his like telepathic abilities, but that's really about it.
And a massive array of Pokemon moves.
Well,
but yeah, so yeah, do you know what, people? We're very interested to hear your thoughts about it. If you guys want to leave a comment regarding the poll in the comments down below, and hey, do you want to see more polls in the future? Let us know. But of course, we've delayed long enough. There's a lot of shout outs to do, but we're finally here to discuss Aang versus the Traveler. And I've got to say, without a shadow of a doubt, which is funny because we just talked about Shadow, it was okay. Like, I thought it was just an okay episode. No, it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it, but, given the fact I have no attachment to these two characters, I was like, I've gone back to rewatch it a few times, so I'm like, yeah, I liked it.
I think this episode nails what people wanted it to do for the most part. It just falls a little short in some other aspects.
Yeah, so I kind of want to get my negatives out of the way regarding, because this actually comes into, funny enough, the analysis, which it's been a while, but I actually have some critiques about the analysis for once, in terms of like its editing. Which is, trying to think when was the last time I actually had issues with the editing. But the one big issue that I had with both the Traveler and Aang's, it felt rushed. Like, I felt as though I was just hammed in information really quickly, and it feels as though with Aang specifically, they're kind of expecting a lot of people to almost understand, the lore of Avatar, like, while also covering Aang. It was like, this feels very... Thank you, Delaney. I really wanted this this toy. I'm not in the middle of recording or anything.
Delaney's just like, stop being negative, play with me.
She wants another cameo on my channel, damn it. You've already had 2. So yeah, I just feel as though, like, with Aang's stuff, it really felt as though they were just, like, hammering stuff, like, really quickly, and almost like, oh, you know what, people grew up with Avatar, so they will know everything about this. Sorry to say, people, the only closest thing I've gotten to Avatar is the latest movie, which was actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie, and the Korra series. Those are my only introductions into Avatar.
Yeah, I
mean, there's also all the other Avatar episodes that they've already done.
I can understand it for someone like Bill who's not attached to Aang, but considering, we talked about it a lot of people, like I imagine most of Death Battle's community has been attached to Avatar/Aang, so I can kind of understand the direction they went with, and I think it makes the most sense.
Well, I wouldn't say it makes the most sense. I think it's more so, I mean, let's be real, with a lot of Death Battles, it's always going to come down to, like, oh, the fans are going to love all the references, and, like, they're going to understand this lore, so we don't need to, like, go too much in depth to everything, which is like, okay, fair enough. But I feel as though, like, with past Death Battles, even this year, they have managed to cover a lot of, like, big in-depth characters really well. Aang's one just felt really rushed and stuff like that. I will admit, though, I think it got a bit more interesting once we started seeing Jocelyn, funny enough, that took me by surprise. I was like, oh, hello, Jocelyn.
First time back since Among Us Fall Guys.
I think it's a good touch for them to have, like, the cameos from Jocelyn and later on Ringmaster, especially since, well, they wanted to try their best to give this episode a positive light, considering when it got announced on the Kickstarter, people pretty much hated it.
Yeah, there is some controversy in this episode, which I think we'll probably discuss more once we get to the fight aspect. But yeah, I will say, as someone, would I say Aang's analysis in this episode was better than his last appearance? It might be a hot take. I kind of feel like they're kind of on the same wavelength for me. But I feel as if this one didn't do anything. I didn't have any hatred towards the other one. I feel like my issues with that one, again, they just felt like they were just hammering a lot of information really quickly, and it feels like it just translated once again to this one's. So it's like, okay, so my critiques for Aang's analysis hasn't really changed that much. They've just thrown in some more jokes and cameos this time, and they're on a smaller budget. Yeah, what do you guys think of the analysis? Because you guys are a bit more Avatar enthusiastic than I am.
I genuinely really like Aang's analysis this time around. Them explaining the martial arts, them covering the Avatar state a little bit more in depth this time for him. And again, just the whole like running gags with Jocelyn I thought was great, especially like when they talk about the shipping with Zuko Katara, that was funny.
You can't have a toxic fandom without freaking, like, shipping wars. There's probably been more shipping wars with fan characters than there have been in actual wars in real life.
Across the internet? Maybe. As for me, though, weirdly enough, last time Aang was on Death Battle, I did not watch Avatar beforehand. So I actually felt like, in on a lot of like the jokes and references this time around. So yeah, it was definitely a better like first time experience for me. The editing was absolutely a lot better. Like overlaying the characters to like events. Like when it showed library sinking into desert and showed like that other scene of like Toph like holding it up, like. Yeah, that was good. And Jocelyn, when asked like how long you've been standing there, and her, I've been here the whole time, and that shot of Sokka really angry. Like, I love it when they time like the footage really like well to what the characters are talking about. Always gets a laugh out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like going more in depth on like Aang's like struggle in the final battle against Ozai.
I will admit, while watching like them discussing that aspect of his story, it just makes me kind of wonder just how much Aang would have fun in the Underground and Undertale. Like, I feel like he would vibe with almost every monster and boss. Like, can you just imagine him cooking with Undyne? Like, I can actually imagine that being so chaotic.
Him cooking with Undyne or him trying to survive Undyne's the real question.
Both. Like, that's pretty much cooking. Last time she was cooking, she burned down her house.
But there's no penguins in the Underground. He can't do penguin sledding. 0 out of 10 concept.
I'm trying to think, was it? No, I was going to say, no, there was a penguin monster, but then it was like, oh, no, that was a bird that was made of ice.
I also know I'm jumping ahead to the fight a bit, but no Cabbage Merchant. This episode gets a 0 out of 10.
I know, right? That was so surprising. I was like, oh, they're going to have the there's going to be like a cabbage somewhere. I was like, oh, no Cabbage Merchant. I guess in this continuity, he's still dead from a chorus battle. I mean, he was already dead before that, but, at least he made an appearance.
Well, no, in Korra's episode, Aang would be long dead.
Yeah, that actually does make sense. Can you imagine someone trying to go in depth about the lore of death battles, like how they connect and that sort of shit?
If only Mad Pat was still around, that'd be the funniest thing for him to attempt.
Here we're gonna figure out how all the death powers connected and how Kirby is Sans. Oh god, that would have been fun. I miss Matt Pat's videos. Dang, I think the internet misses him. Yeah, I mean, my final say about Ant's analysis is I thought it was okay. I did have some issues with just them, hammering information into my face very quickly, but yeah, I didn't have any issues with it. I thought some of the gags were pretty funny. It was nice seeing Jocelyn. I will say I felt as though it got more interested when talking about, funny enough, the Traveller. Which, do you guys want to jump to that now, or should we talk a bit more about Ant's bit?
Sure.
Yeah, so I will say I definitely feel as though I was more surprised with the lore of Genshin Impact. Like, okay, we did have, like, a bit of a dive into the lore of Genshin Impact, but I was generally quite surprised on just, like, I don't think we got into the full powers when we were talking about the Traveller. I know Annie and Koto did cover, like, a lot of the basic weaponry and stuff like that. I will admit, when it came to us just discussing, like, the power outputs, I don't think we really dived too deeply into a lot of the, like, the other characters. It was mostly them talking about their favorite characters, which, to be fair, looking at just the designs of some of the characters, I can actually understand why Genshin Impact has so many fans, as well as a lot of money from said fans.
I like the running gag they did during part of it, where just like, yeah, he's trying to find his sister. He didn't really care about the wars going on, but he got dragged into it.
Every Londoner during World War II. So I will admit, like, I think I was definitely more interested. I think with Avatar, I at least know a bit of the lore. I watched the movie, and I've watched Korra and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, I'm kind of familiar with, like, the whole nations and everything like that, and the elements. But I feel like when you're discovering, like, a new franchise, well, okay, Genshin Impact's not new, but, like, for me, I barely know anything about Genshin Impact. My only knowledge of Genshin Impact was LaFaro's sponsor, and the fact it managed to beat Sonic Frontiers at the Game Awards. So it was like, okay, that's pretty much my knowledge on it, but I was generally quite fascinated learning about, like, these characters and the world building, and I feel so this one also does suffer from the fact a lot of this was just kind of hammered to me again. It was like, hold on, slow down, please. Who's that little fairy girl? What's that fire girl? Why is this guy pixelated? It's like that kind of got a bit much. Like, I had my issues with Aang feeling like it was hammering in information to my head. Once they were done with the hammer, I was like, oh, thank God it's over. And then just pull out a fucking drill. It's like, right, time for Genshin Impact lore, Billy.
Bruh, I went back to look at some of the editing. If you look closely at one of the characters' like glasses, there's literally a Genshin character wearing a McDonald's hat.
Yeah, I wonder if
what the f is the story behind that?
I was gonna say, is that a canon thing, or is that a fan thing that managed to slip its way into an episode?
I don't know. It might have been, like, at one point, they did, like, a promotional thing. So, you know how apps can change their, like, logos sometimes when you, like, launch games and whatnot?
No, not really. I don't really play that many mobile games.
Well, some games will change, like, their cover art or, like, app cover to, like, a different design. And I'm guessing if they did, like, a promotion with McDonald's, that's what they changed it to, because they thought it was funny.
Yeah, fair enough. Also, I'm just going to say this, like, no McDonald's has an employee that looks that cute. I'm just saying. But I will admit as well, I was generally interested in learning more about the lore of Genshin Impact more than I was Avatar, because I think it was the cutscenes, and I'm always a fan of, like, 3D anime styles in video games. I feel as though I'm a sucker for that sort of style. So I don't know what it is, like, anime, when they try and go full 3D when it comes to TV shows, looks horrible, but in video games it just looks amazing. I'm just thinking, why can't TV shows look this epic? But I also kind of like the fact when they were talking about his sister, because she's one of the choices of the two playable characters. Yeah, I like the fact they had to acknowledge, like, yeah, we don't actually know what's going on with his sister at the moment. We haven't gotten that far in the story yet. We're just like, oh, I want to know. And this isn't Death Battle's fault, like, you know, it's just a case of like, oh, you know, it's a gacha game. They're always going to be updating. But, you know, I was actually getting so interested in learning about the world that when they just like, we don't know anything, I was like, no, please don't leave me on the cliffhanger. I need to know.
Hoyoverse has like so many projects as well that they have to keep track of.
Yeah, that's true. Don't they have like Zenla Zone Zero, which I did have a little go of. That was actually quite fun.
Yes.
Again, that was another LeFaro sponsor. I'm noticing a lot of themes of his sponsors.
Also, I don't know. I think the most what the moment for me was like, wait, he can turn into a dinosaur.
Yeah, that was funny enough. Never brought up to us by Koto and Andy. You guys messed it up. Therefore, you're no longer being sent to Raid Shadow Legends. I'm now sending you to... Actually, I don't really know that many gacha games, so you win this round, you two.
Oh, Lord.
But I will admit, I was generally more interested in like learning about this world. I will admit, though, I didn't really get much on terms of, well, funny enough, the Traveler himself. Like, yes, we got to understand his powers and how the elements work and stuff like that. But you know, shout out to, funny, I just mentioned them before, I guess. I feel as though Annie and Koto did a better job discussing, like, Aoife's character better than, well, the Death Battle, like, I don't know, they talked about his abilities and the story, but it didn't really feel as though they covered, like, the depth, like, too much of his depth compared to our guest, funny enough.
I think they wanted to focus on, like, all the cool visuals and, like, really more about Genshin itself rather than Traveler.
Well, I feel like that's kind of a bit of an issue, because it's like, well, we kind of need to know a bit more about our character. Which, okay, this could be a case with, you know, Aoife's character within the game itself, because Aoife gives me a Byleth sort of vibe, where, I mean, one, you could choose whichever gender you choose, but it's also the fact Byleth's character doesn't really have a character. It's more so based on what the player does with that character, and it's more so the other characters that, you know, are part of the story that you grow attached to. Aoife kind of comes off as that sort of character where, let's be real here, aside the sister motivation and wanting to, well, save his sister, a lot of the choices that happen is really depend on the player. Similar to like Skyrim and Chosen Undead in a way.
Also, I need someone to explain this to me in the Arsenal section. Cool your jets, Ducky.
Yeah.
What is that?
Again, I feel like that is a Genshin Impact reference that we just didn't get. Like, it would be like the Dragon Ball fans who see like Cell likes Kermit the Frog and think, what? And it's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Some jokes are we're not always gonna, you know, get a lot of the humor and stuff like that. Like, we may be meme-y type of people, but there are some memes we just do not get. Overall, I thought Aoife's section, similar to Aang's, it was a bit, you know, well, this was drilled in with the lore and stuff like that. I will say, compared to Avatar, though, I generally wanted to learn more about Genshin Impact. I feel like, you know what, Death Battle did a really good job at... I mean, whenever Death Battle can get me into wanting to check out a franchise, I always look at that as a win. So, yeah, I might actually finally download Genshin Impact on my Xbox, because it is available. In fact, if you actually look at the image they have for it, it has a little fairy girl holding up the Xbox logo in the light. It's actually quite cute. In fact, I will say, like, that character they showed is just like, I was looking at, what's her name again? Simon or something like that?
Simon.
Yeah, I was just looking at it, so I was just like, if anyone is to go, I'm like Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like, if anyone was to touch this thing, I will kill anyone or anything in this room right now. Like, she is just precious. But yeah, that's a positive for me with this analysis. I generally want to check out Genshin Impact now. I thought they did a good job of getting me into the lore. I just think in terms of the characters, I will admit I don't think they did too much of a good job on that with me.
I do also think it's fair to shout out Jukum, because not only did he research Traveler, but all the gameplay that we see in Aether's section, it's all his.
Yeah, I do like the fact Death Battle actually go out their way to get their own gameplay footage whenever they can. Do you guys have any final says before we get to the battle?
I don't have much to say, mate.
I'll be honest, like, the biggest highlight for me is just when Ringmaster's saying that he used all his savings for stuff in Genshin, so they're all set, and BlueSky goes, "Oh, so that's why you're broke as shit."
Yeah, well, I did like the Bill cameo.
That explains why we never got another season of DBX. Ringmaster blew all the budget on gacha games.
I could buy it.
He probably sold the arena as well.
Where's he living?
I mean, considering who made the arena in the first place, good.
Yeah. I will admit, the cameos this time around were... I think it was actually kind of cool. They did acknowledge, like, their, some of their best characters. And Dummy, I suppose. So, yeah, I guess we got to talk about the fight, because now, before we even, like, discuss the start of this fight and everything like that, the one selling point of this fight, which I'm not sure if it was announced during, like, the fundraiser, but this was said to be a very stylistic sort of death battle, which got many people thinking this is going to be another Moro episode and stuff like that, because, let's be real here, when it comes to death battle styles, you can't knock that Moro has a really cool style and stuff like that. But no, it was another 3D episode, which I was like, okay, that's surprising.
Our first 3D Avatar episode. That gives me hope for 2 matchups I want.
So, we had a new animator lead this time for this episode, oddly enough. This was Duvad. It was his first time being the animator lead for this one.
Yeah, and now, I will say, I want to start this off with kind of a little minor critique I have at the start of this fight. I feel as though, like, and this will go into, like, one of my other major criticisms I actually have with the fight. It just kind of feels like it just started. As in, like, I don't mean, like, oh, like, it just feels though, actually, no, not started, that's the wrong word. It feels as though we literally just missed, like, almost, like, a whole minute of a fight. Because, like, Aether's already starting to fight Aang. Aang is, like, interacting with Aether, like, he's already had an introduction and stuff like that, so it was like, okay, this feels a little, I don't know, like, it reminded me of my issue with, like, Dragon Zord versus, like, Mechagodzilla. It's just like, oh, we're just starting as they're already fighting. It's like, oh, okay, like, I would have liked to build up, because usually the build-ups are quite fun. With that said, though, I will admit, you know what, 3D aspects of this fight, I think it's perhaps my favourite so far this year. Because, one...
Yeah, no, the team did phenomenal.
Yeah, like, okay, I can agree, they definitely nailed the style and stuff like that. In fact, when you go back to rewatch this slowed down, you can actually see the amount of hard work that clearly went into this. Like, I mean, for God's sake, the facial expression, just slow down as the fight is, like, starting, and look at Aang's and Aether's expressions, man. It was like, damn, like, this almost looks one for one from the games. Yes, there has been critiques about the rocks, funny enough, that Aang summons. Yeah, they look very PlayStation 1-esque, we're not going to deny that. But I think if you just, if we can, like, pass a lot of death battles that kind of cheaped out on some of the background of things and stuff like that, it's like, look, we can look past, like, poorly polygon rocks. Like, overall, like, expression of these characters, the movement's so fluid, it's like, it's really well done, like, the choreography of this fight.
Yeah, dude, I also just love how nice the models look. It takes a little bit to get used to Aang, sure, but, like, I think it turned out well to try to match each other.
Yeah, I have spoken to people who say they think that, like, Aang's voice and the model don't quite match, because it's an older looking Aang, but his voice sounds really young. Which, I mean, I get, but after a while in the fight, you just kind of don't notice it.
Actually, before we go more further into this fight, while I was editing the second, like, part of our last recording session, I was actually quite surprised to learn that not a lot of people in Japan actually like Aang. I was like, really? One, they don't like his design. They feel as though he's a bit too nice. It's seriously, like, I'll just put on the screen, like, some of the critiques that Japan has about Aang, and I'm like, that's actually really surprising. They're not even a fan of Avatar's art style, which I'm like, that's kind of sad. Like, I thought, like, this was one of the animes that kind of like, oh wow, the West can really get our art style, that sort of thing. So it's very anime inspired. Hey, like, surprisingly not. Which isn't. I'm not saying like all of Japan hate Avatar. I was just generally surprised in terms of popularity. It's not that popular over there. But I will say, like, voice acting wise, I don't know if I can really comment too much on the voice acting. Like, I think they were good, but obviously in terms of characterization, it's like I barely know too much about these characters, so I can't really say.
It's so funny because this is Korra's VA as Aang.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Amanda was Korra's VA in Korra vs. Storm, and she came back to voice Aang.
Hey, you know what? She does a pretty good Korra, and hey, do you know what? Here's hoping she done a very good Aang as well.
I really like Amanda's performance as Aang. I think she nailed it, especially like the laughing scene when he's riding the dinosaur.
Oh, absolutely.
I was chuckling at that. I was like, okay, that's just cute.
That's what Aang said before the ride started. I'm just like, okay, that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of cute, I absolutely love freaking the little fairy character like complaining now. She goes treasure hunting and then she gets scared when she sees, what's that creature called again?
Appa?
Appa.
Yeah, like I freaking love that. Which I will admit, I didn't actually hear what she said. I thought she said "such a beast" when like she screams. But with subtitles on, apparently she says "help me," which I'm like, I don't know if that matches.
So
For a minute, I thought she said, don't eat me.
Yeah, I feel as though that is probably more accurate. You know, I feel like, because I don't know whether Death Battle do their own subtitles or they just use YouTube's like automatic detection, which doesn't always go well. Apparently, there's been some funny like mistranslations.
You know what's even funnier? This is a Twitch streamer voicing Paimon. This is Lily Pichu. She's done actual voices for Genshin from what I've understood. I just find it kind of interesting.
Yeah, so they actually managed to get a Genshin actor. It kind of like, didn't they get like an actual Fire Emblem voice actor for like Guts versus Dimitri? So it's kind of like a similar situation like that.
I would say it's more similar to like Rick versus the Doctor, where they got a Doctor Who VA to voice the Doctor.
True, actually, that probably fits a bit better. Yeah, like overall, I generally really liked like, I mean, fun. The voices were pretty great. And animation-wise, I think I could definitely agree. Stylistic-wise, like compared to the last 3D episodes we've gotten, oh yeah, definitely the most stylish 3D battle we've had this year. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still saying Denji versus Genji is like still Yuji, not Genji. Jesus, that's more of a stomp than his last death battle. He would need more than a healing.
Sorry, it sounded like you said Genji versus Genji.
Oh no, sorry, I said Denji versus
it
Genji.
Kinda did.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, like, you know, I still have a soft spot for that episode because obviously, well, I have more attachment to those characters. But yeah, overall, I feel as though, like, stylistic wise, I think this is the most stylish battle we've got. I want you guys to kind of take the role a bit more on this though, because it's like, right, how do you guys feel? I mean, let's be real, you guys are mostly going to cover Aang. How did you guys feel as though they treated Aang this time? Because one of the biggest controversies between Edward versus Aang was the characterization of Aang.
Definitely a lot better this time around.
I mean, yeah, probably, but aside from just the death, I didn't necessarily see that in Aang versus Edward.
That tends to be the biggest criticism I hear from people, though, is that Aang was not really that much in character throughout the fight.
I don't know, like... Okay, this isn't a Aang versus Edward Elric discussion, but I still freaking love, like, after the whole, like, misunderstanding with the calling him short thing makes smokes, and he's actually trying to justify it and calm him down. Like, you know, there's actually a lot of advantages to being short. Like, you'll never hit your head on door frames. Like, he's trying to make it sound good. Like, I could see him doing that, is the thing.
Yeah, which... that...
But anyway, back to this fight. Yeah, like the gliding around and the fact he's just like complimenting Traveler the whole time, and I feel stupid for not catching this. It was only until I watched Proboscis' reaction. When he goes Avatar State and has that monologue while bending the element, those are the motions from the opening of Avatar.
Yeah, I noticed that first time. I was just like, okay, that's pretty cute.
Yeah, that's a really solid reference.
Like, credit to the animators.
I
They
also
managed
like
to nail it perfectly. Like, literally, view that and the opening side by side, and you'll see how well they got the detail.
I also like the reference that Aang froze Aether the same way he froze himself.
Yeah.
Like, towards the end of the glider combat.
Now, we're getting up to probably the last portion of the fight, and this is kind of where more of my criticism is going to play into this. Because, okay, I mentioned at the start of this fight, you know, like, it just feels as though we're just kind of gotten into the fight, you know, we didn't get an introduction or anything like that. It generally feels as though, like, the fight just kind of, like, escalates even crazier without any real reason, and funny enough, I feel as though the characters stopped. Well, let's be real. Aether didn't interact with Aang at all, mostly in this fight. He just had, like, he has dialogue and stuff like that. Because for a moment, I thought they just reused the voice lines from the game, but no, apparently they did get an Aether voice actor. So it's like, I'm surprised he didn't really comment much on Aang. Like, honestly, if you just put Aether against any character and not Aang, Aether makes no comments about Aang. Like, which is just crazy. In fact, funny, Paimon has more interactions with an Avatar character, and it's on the freaking sidelines. It's like,
yeah, this is my biggest critique of the animation, is that it felt like Aether had no personality. It was basically Aang versus blank canvas guy, 69-420.
It generally felt like that. Like, and maybe not to that name, but you know, Aether's not interacting with Aang at all. Like I could look past the introduction side as long as we actually get the, you know, later on in the fight. And, you know, the other things, well, and don't get me wrong, the dialogue for this bit was great. Aang, like, saying who came before knows who will follow. I am Aang, the last airbender. Like, that is really well written dialogue, which I'm sure is probably from the show as well. But again, why is he saying this to Aether? Like, I know this seems like a weird nitpick, but generally, like, because they've not interacted so much, it feels like just a random line. It'd be like, I don't know, Darth Vader and, like, I don't know, Toph Gideon just chilling in a barn. Darth Vader goes, so, I'm Luke's father. Okay? Thanks for letting me know. Like,
I know who that is.
Exactly. That's how I felt when I watching this. It's like, I am Aang, the last airbender. Okay, I didn't ask for your name. We're trying to kill each other. Like, it feels so out of place during the fight. I don't know why it bothers me so much. Because it is really well written dialogue, but it would have been cool if Aether said something to him, like, beforehand. And then there's the line afterwards. Hold on, let me just see what he said. Yeah, through the heights and shallows, from dust, through infinite dust and darkness. It's like, again, what's that supposed to mean to Aang? Like, it generally feels as though their dialogue is not matched, which, again, they did get voice actors for these, but their dialogue almost feels as though they was ripped from either the show or the games.
Yeah, like, honestly,
also,
it's
like, one thing I'm never gonna not notice is that Aang calls himself the last airbender, and Aether just killing him and being like, oh, this guy just told me he's the last of his kind. Deaf. Now no one's gonna miss you.
Yeah, it's like, again, because the characters don't interact so much, it generally feels as though they're just... It's like playing a fighting game where the characters have that little exchange at the start of the fight, and then they're just randomly throwing different types of dialogue at each other.
It's like, I get Aether's like a silent RPG, like, pro tag. And, like, obviously there's a trend saying, like, they have technically no personalities and whatnot. But, like, even with Joker Giorno, like, they gave Joker a little bit of personality and humor when he was fighting him.
And I actually can't believe I actually agree with you on that, and I freaking hate that episode. Well, maybe not hate it, I just, you know, in terms of the independent era, definitely not one of my favorites.
In this, it's just like, Aether is just The most generic character I have seen Death Battle animate.
Like, it feels like the Season 1 era Death Battle, where the characters never interacted and they just used voice lines for them. Funny enough, I actually feel as though when they used voice lines for Batman versus Black Panther, those dialogues actually worked really well with one each other. Like when Black Panther is lying, he goes, prepare yourself, and Batman goes, I'm prepared for everything. It's like, how? They literally just took random voice lines from whatever material, and it worked.
Even the first exchange, to challenge a king is to face the might of his people. I'll give them something to fear.
Yeah, it's like, that's one of my critiques. Because the problem, well, not problem, because how Koto and Annie described Aether was that, he's almost like Aang in a way. He wants to learn about the cultures and he wants to get stronger through learning their cultures and powers. Never felt like that with this. Like, in terms of like Aang, just from the Death Battle, I feel as though they nailed Aang's personality, the whole playful child side, not wanting to kill. But other than that, yeah, Aether is just the player trying to get. I saw this joke in the comments like Aang was killed for like 5 grimestones or something like that, which I'm assuming is like a collectible in the game.
No, he dies and all he drops is about 50 XP and a rusty dagger.
Yeah, so it's weird to say. I feel as though the last portion of this fight was kind of the weakest element for me. It's like, actually no, this is actually my other point, which I noticed first time viewing, and even on rewatches, it's still an issue. It feels as though Aether had way too many advantages. In fact, there was very few times he actually was knocked into like a sort of perilous sort of situation, which was one when he was covered in water and frozen and thrown to the side, and when he was being ridden by Aang. So it's like, yeah, like surprisingly, Aang kind of feels like he was being toyed, or maybe not toyed with, but it feels as though Aang was just, like, don't get me wrong, yes, we know the matchup is a one-sided. I think everyone and their mothers knew this. But yeah, generally feel as though like Aether was just kind of dominating the fight. Would you guys agree, or do you guys have other?
I have other issues with this animation. Like, I think the ending, while visually pleasing, it kind of is lackluster when you compare it to, like, especially Aether's final line. I thought sounded the most generic thing he could say.
I mean, if that's a line from the game, I feel as though it kind of feels weird criticizing it, because it's like, I mean, that's probably something from the games. But again, I just feel like his dialogue though just didn't match with. I mean, we already critiqued how the dialogue just felt like it didn't really match a lot of time. It just felt like it was a one-sided conversation.
Also, the only like other slight nitpick I kind of have is like before Aether does like his Soul Bright thing, I kind of wish they put in his sister instead of Paimon. That way, he kind of has like a reason to keep going, because like his whole story is about finding his sister in the first place.
I could kind of actually get that. On one hand, that thing's precious, and it's just like, I want you in a death battle. Actually, do I want you in a death battle? Because you might die. I don't want that. But I think because like I'm gonna go by like these characters are like they've traveled through so much and they've been together, and they're kind of formed like a brother-sister relationship, or I guess if you select the sister, then a sister-sister relationship. But I will say, the reason I did hold off on this though, because I've given my major criticism. Opening, just kind of rushed into it. A bit of the fight was really good, and I felt like the acting was good. The last portion of the fight just feels a little bit all over the place. But I think the music absolutely slaps.
I love this soundtrack.
It's so. I mean, when I was getting music for the second portion of our last session, I was listening to Genshin Impact's menu music, which yes, the music I use is the menu music for Genshin Impact. Oh my god, I was like, how is this just the menu music? It's like when I first heard Boulder Gate's Freeze, like just intro music on the menu, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, like how does this go so hard? Well, actually, I wouldn't say Genshin Impact goes hard. It's almost like in a way like a peaceful sort of like, I don't know, tranquility sort of music, and I feel like they nailed that in this fight. I haven't looked up.
So are we adding Genshin music to an upcoming server event?
Maybe. I'll have to wait and see if people suggest it.
So yeah, yeah. So I will say, in terms of the analysis, I don't really have any major critiques about it. It's like, yeah, I kind of expected everything what they said. Like, oh, who took the categories and stuff like that. And, overall, it was entertaining. Overall, I still say the episode is good. I will say, though, I wouldn't say it's the weakest of the season. I'd probably still give that to Bakugo versus Reze, because at least with Bakugo versus Reze, the only thing I feel as though that episode nailed was the characterization of Bakugo, and even, like, some visuals in the fight. But everything else I just wasn't interested in. Whereas this one is like, okay, despite the fact I don't know these characters, I was a little bit more invested in learning about them. Genshin Impact probably more than Avatar, but yeah, I thought the episode was still good. That's my verdict.
I think the episode's pretty good, solid all around. It nails the things I was hoping this episode would nail, like a better characterization for Aang, the visual pleasing aspect of the fight, and a really good soundtrack. Like, they nailed the things I wanted them to nail with this one. Also, to comment on like the post analysis real quick, people are all immediately pointing out, oh, they nursed Aether.
Yeah, that was the major critiques I did hear about this, which, again, I can't really speak for it, but it's like, my dogs are acting up.
Your dogs
they
agree,
apparently.
Yeah, I think, I'm just going to say this outright, because I was getting so sick of seeing this in the comments. I'm just going to say it. Versus community, you guys suck at writing Death Battle. Because you know what? Why should an Avatar fan watch a Death Battle episode where all you're going to do is say why that character gets destroyed? Where's the enjoyment in that for the Avatar fans? Because I feel as though Avatar fans can enjoy this episode without feeling as though they're being mocked that they're going to lose. Because whenever I look into comments, people always laugh about how they nerfed the character and stuff like that. Oh, well, it's an obvious stomp. Why didn't you just say why it's a stomp? And I'm just going to say this, because that sucks. No one likes to be told their character are in a no-win situation. Like, we've had a lot of stomp episodes this year. But you know what? They've done their best to not, in a way, rub it in the people's faces. And I'm just going to say it, the community sucks about that. You guys would make terrible Death Battle writers. Because all you want to do is just say why this character easily stomps the battle and why it should just end with literal, I don't know, curb stomping. So yeah, that's my little jab at the community, because frankly, I'm just sick of those comments.
That's fair. Overall, though, I enjoyed this episode more than I thought it would. Like, pretty solid all around.
Same. I have a joke leaning into one aspect about this episode we haven't talked about yet. So usually when we talk about episodes, I like pull it up on the side, just like, go through it while we're talking. However, when I pulled this up, a message came up saying, this video may be inappropriate for some users.
Oh yeah, because the episode got age restricted. Keep in mind, we had Metal Sonic vs. Cell this year, and Reze vs. Bakugo. But this...
Freaking Yuji versus Denji.
It's... Like, this is perhaps the
I'm
most...
trying to think what this episode age restricted.
Just... Oh my god, like, oh, Yuji gets sliced in half by chainsaws? That's fine. Freaking, like, Cell gets, like, incinerated, and then we showed a bit where he's drinking a person. That's fine. Gambling? Oh, no. Age restrict that.
Oh my god, it's like Pokemon all over again. People got mad that the Red and Blue games had gambling.
Let's be real here, does humanity ever learn their lessons?
Oh.
No.